The emergency beacon felt cold in Ambassador Veltar's four shaking hands. His people were dying, and he was their last hope. The command center around him looked like chaos. Officers with 6 arms were typing frantically on multiple keyboards at once. Others with tentacles instead of legs slithered between workstations, their skin changing colors to show their panic. "Sir, we're losing contact with the outer colonies," called out his communications officer. Her voice cracked like glass breaking. The readings showed nothing, just empty space where Kepler 438b used to be. Veltar's insect-like mandibles clicked together, a sound his species made when they felt deep sadness. 12 billion people had lived on that world just yesterday. Now there was nothing left but cosmic dust. His own family, his clutch siblings as his people called them, were trapped on Proxima 7. The tactical display showed it glowing red, marking it as the Void Swarm's next target, the Void Swarm. Even thinking the name made Veltar's 4 hearts race with terror. For 300 years, this mechanical nightmare had been eating its way across the galaxy. It didn't just destroy planets or kill people, it consumed everything, breaking down matter itself until whole star systems simply stopped existing. How long do we have? Veltar asked, though he dreaded the answer. Based on their current speed, the swarm will reach Proxima 7 in 48 hours, his tactical officer replied. The young male's voice shook. After that, they'll be here in 6 days. 6 days. Veltar looked around the command center at his people. They had fought so hard to build this civilization. The Zephyrian collective wasn't just one species, but 12 different alien races working together. They had artists who painted with light itself, scientists who could bend space, and philosophers who had solved questions that had puzzled the galaxy for millennia. In 6 days, none of it would matter. Send out the emergency signal, Veltar commanded. Use the old protocols, tell them we're offering the garden worlds. His aide, a small being with purple skin and large golden eyes, looked shocked. All 3 coordinates, sir. All 3. The garden worlds were the collective's most precious secret. 3 perfect planets, each one a paradise of blue oceans and green continents. They had planned to keep these worlds hidden for generations, safe places where their children could grow up in peace. But what good were future sanctuaries if there was no future? The distress signal went out across the galaxy, traveling faster, then light through the communication networks that connected every civilized world. Veltar included everything: star charts showing the swarm's path, casualty reports from the consumed worlds, and most importantly, the exact coordinates of the 3 garden worlds. It was the richest prize any military force could ask for. Within 6 hours, the responses started coming in. Veltar felt hope bloom in his chest as message after message appeared on his screen. The Galactic Hegemony had received their signal. So had the Trade Federation, the Psionic Conclave, the Crystal Collective, and dozens of other major powers. Then he read the actual messages, and his hope died. We regret that we cannot provide military assistance at this time. The humans have established protocols regarding Void Swarm incidents. Every single message said basically the same thing. The wording changed a little, but the meaning was clear. Nobody would help because the humans had said not to. Veltar stared at his screen in complete confusion. The humans? He knew about humans, of course. They were one of the newer species, barely 5,000 years old compared to the collective's 50,000-year history. They controlled maybe 50 star systems on the outer edge of the galaxy. Why would ancient, powerful civilizations listen to them about anything? "Sir," his aide said quietly, "there's another message coming in." This one was from the human embassy on Centauri Prime. Veltar opened it, expecting some kind of explanation, maybe an apology for causing all the major powers to abandon them. Instead, he got a customer service form. "Greetings, thank you for contacting Human Military Services. To request assistance, please submit Form 2847B in triplicate within the next 72 standard hours. Common troubleshooting tip. Have you tried turning the Void Swarm off and on again? Please note that your call is very important to us, and we will respond in the order requests were received." Veltar read the message 3 times, certain his translation software had malfunctioned. A form in triplicate, They wanted him to fill out paperwork while his people were being consumed by an unstoppable force of mechanical death. And what did turning the void swarm off and on again even mean? It wasn't a computer system you could reboot. It was a plague of self-replicating machines that had devoured hundreds of civilizations. "Sir, we're getting reports from the outer sensor grid," called his tactical officer. "The swarm has begun its approach to Proxima 7. Estimated time until contact, 36 hours. On the main display, another dot went dark. Another world full of people just gone. Veltar thought about his clutch siblings. They had been planning to visit him next month to celebrate the Harmony Festival. His sister had just had her first offspring, tiny little ones no bigger than his thumb. Were they looking up at the sky right now, seeing the mechanical cloud approaching their world? "Get me the human embassy on the emergency channel," Veltar ordered. "Sir, their automated system says all representatives are currently busy and asks that you hold for the next available agent. There's music playing." Veltar listened to the tinny melody coming through the speakers. It was some kind of human composition, pleasant but repetitive. Every 30 seconds, a cheerful voice would say, "Thank you for holding. Your call is important." To us. As he listened to that message for the 15th time, watching another world die on his tactical display, Veltar wondered if the entire galaxy had lost its mind. The most powerful civilizations in known space were deferring to a species that handled military emergencies like a business transaction. Meanwhile, his people were counting down their final hours. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "I have someone from the human embassy. Admiral Kim Jae-ho wants to schedule a meeting." "When?" Veltar asked desperately. 3 days from now, at a place called Starbucks. He says it's important for proper diplomatic protocol. 3 days. The swarm would be here in 6 days, and the humans wanted to meet for coffee in 3 days. Veltar looked around his command center one more time, at all the brave souls working frantically to save their civilization. Maybe the humans knew something everyone else didn't. Maybe there was a reason every major power deferred to their protocols. Or maybe, Veltar thought grimly, they were all about to learn that sometimes the galaxy's sense of humor was darker than the void between stars. 3 days had crawled by like wounded animals. Veltar had barely slept, watching the tactical displays as the void swarm moved closer to Proxima 7. His clutch siblings had sent their final messages, telling him they loved him and asking him to remember their children's names. The weight of his entire civilization's survival pressed down on his 4 shoulders as he boarded the human transport ship. The vessel itself was unlike anything he had ever seen. Most alien ships were built for function, with clean lines and efficient designs. This human ship looked like someone had built it as a joke. The name painted on the side read, "Bureaucratic Nightmare," in cheerful yellow letters, with a small cartoon drawing of a smiling human drowning in paperwork. "Welcome aboard, Ambassador," said a young human female with short black hair. "I'm Lieutenant Park So-young. The Admiral is waiting for you in the diplomatic section." Veltar followed her through corridors that seemed designed by someone who had never heard of straight lines. Everything curved and twisted, with odd alcoves containing what humans apparently called art. One sculpture looked like a metal tree growing through a filing cabinet. Another showed a human figure juggling planets while riding a bicycle. "Is this normal for human military vessels?" Veltar asked, his translator working overtime to process concepts like abstract expressionism and bureaucratic satire. "Lieutenant," Park laughed, a sound like small bells ringing. "The Admiral has unique ideas about workplace morale. He says, if you're going to be stuck in space for months, you might as well enjoy the view." They arrived at what looked less like a diplomatic meeting room and more like a small restaurant. Round tables with comfortable chairs were scattered around the space, and the air smelled of something warm and bittersweet. A large window showed the stars outside, but instead of the usual harsh light of space, everything was softly lit with warm golden lamps. "This is our diplomatic suite," Lieutenant Park explained. "The Admiral believes important conversations happen better when people are comfortable. Can I get you anything to drink?" Before Veltar could answer, a cheerful robotic voice piped up from behind the counter. "Welcome to Starbucks, the galaxy's favorite coffee experience. now serving aboard human naval vessel bureaucratic nightmare. Would you like to try our venti? Diplomatic immunity blend today. Veltar's 4 eyes blinked in confusion. I'm sorry, what? The AI is asking what size drink you want, Lieutenant Park explained. Venti is large, grande is medium. Don't ask me why humans need 17 different words for cup sizes. And please ignore the sales pitch about diplomatic immunity. Corporate programming is really hard to remove from these units. Would you perhaps prefer our peace treaty blend? The AI continued enthusiastically. For just 50 credits more, you get our special mixture of Colombian beans and Andorian spice, guaranteed to make any negotiation 23% more successful. Veltar felt like he was losing his mind. His people were dying. The most feared force in the galaxy was approaching their last stronghold, and the humans wanted to discuss coffee preferences with a robot that apparently believed beverages could influence international relations. Just water, please, he managed to say. Admiral Kim will be right with you, Lieutenant Park said, disappearing through another curved doorway. Veltar sat down at one of the round tables, trying to make sense of what he was experiencing. The chair was surprisingly comfortable, designed to accommodate different body types. The table was real wood, something he had only seen in museums. Everything about this place suggested humans who cared more about comfort than efficiency, more about enjoyment than survival. How had such a species survived long enough to build starships? Sorry to keep you waiting, Ambassador, said a voice behind him. Veltar turned to see a middle-aged human male approaching, carrying a steaming cup in one hand and a small electronic device in the other. Admiral Kim Jae-ho was not what Veltar had expected. Instead of a stern military uniform, he wore comfortable civilian clothes. His hair was slightly messy, and he moved with the relaxed confidence of someone who had never doubted his ability to solve any problem. Please sit, Admiral Kim said, settling into the chair across from Veltar. I know this isn't what you expected for a military briefing, but I find people think better when they're not sitting in sterile conference rooms staring at each other across metal tables. Admiral, with respect, my people are dying, Veltar said, his voice tight with barely controlled panic. The Void Swarm will reach Proxima 7 in 18 hours. I don't understand why we're having coffee when... Because, Admiral Kim interrupted. Gently, you need to understand what you're really dealing with before we can help you. He touched his electronic device, and a holographic star map appeared above the table. Tell me, what do you see here? The map showed the local galactic region, with different colored zones marking various civilizations' territories. Human space appeared as a small cluster of yellow dots near the outer rim, maybe 50 or 60 star systems total. I see human territory, Veltar said. Modest in size, recently established. Your species has done well for itself in a short time, but Admiral Kim pressed another button on his device. The map changed. Veltar's 4 hearts nearly stopped beating. The small cluster of yellow dots suddenly expanded, revealing a vast network of hidden systems, bases and installations. Human territory now covered nearly half the galaxy, carefully concealed behind what appeared to be empty space or belonging to other civilizations. This is the real map, Admiral Kim said calmly, taking a sip of his coffee. We've been out here a lot longer than most people realize, and we've been very busy. But how? Veltar whispered. The galactic census, the trade agreements, the diplomatic records, they all show human space as limited to the outer rim. Paperwork is a wonderful thing, Admiral Kim smiled. File the right forms, pay the right fees, and you can make the galaxy's bureaucracy see whatever you want it to see. We've been practicing for about 3,000 years. The barista AI chimed in again. Would either of you gentlemen like to try our new Galactic Domination Dark Roast? It's surprisingly smooth despite the intimidating name. Not now, Bert, Admiral Kim said patiently. Sorry, Admiral. Just trying to maintain optimal customer service standards. Veltar stared at the expanded map, his mind reeling. You've been hiding your true territory for 3 millennia. Why? Because, Admiral Kim said, his tone becoming more serious. The galaxy has a tendency to panic when they realize how much humans have actually accomplished. We've found it's easier to work behind the scenes, less dramatic that way. Work behind. The scene's doing what? Admiral Kim leaned back in his chair. Fixing problems, preventing disasters, cleaning up messes that other civilizations make and then can't handle. He gestured toward the holographic display. The Void Swarm, for example. We've been tracking it for about 3 centuries now. 3 centuries? Veltar's mandibles clicked in shock. But it's been unstoppable. Every military force that's tried to fight it has been consumed. That's because everyone's been approaching it wrong, Admiral Kim said matter-of-factly. They see a swarm of mechanical entities consuming everything in their path, and they assume it's a military problem. Send in the battleships, fire the biggest guns, hope for the best. It's not a military problem? Admiral Kim grinned, and for the first time since meeting him, Veltar saw something that looked genuinely dangerous in the human's eyes. Oh, it's definitely a problem, but it's not a military problem, it's a customer service problem. The AI barista suddenly perked up. Did someone mention customer service? Would you like to upgrade to our Deluxe Diplomatic Immunity package? For just 99 credits, you get priority seating, expedited negotiations, and a complimentary stress relief meditation session. Veltar looked from the cheerful robot to the smiling admiral to the impossible star map showing human territory spanning half the galaxy. His people were dying, and the humans wanted to solve an unstoppable mechanical plague with customer service protocols. Either he was having the strangest nightmare of his life, or the galaxy was far more complicated than anyone had ever told. Veltar had never felt so terrified in his entire life. Standing on the observation deck of the human flagship, pending approval, he watched through the massive, transparent aluminum windows as the Void Swarm approached. The mechanical horde stretched across space like a dark cloud that had swallowed the stars themselves. Each individual unit was the size of a small moon, and there were millions of them moving in perfect formation. 12 ships, Veltar whispered, his 4 hands pressed against the cool surface of the window. You brought 12 ships to fight that. Behind him, Admiral Kim Jae-ho sat in a comfortable chair, calmly eating something humans called popcorn from a large container. The sound of his chewing seemed impossibly loud in the quiet observation deck. Actually, we brought 13 ships, Admiral Kim corrected, but the overwhelming paperwork is running late because they had to stop and file a flight plan with the local space traffic authority. Regulations, you know. Veltar turned to stare at the Admiral. Regulations? That thing has consumed 300 civilizations, and you're worried about filing flight plans. Rules are rules, Admiral Kim said cheerfully, offering Veltar some popcorn. Want some? It's butter-flavored. We found that watching historical events is more enjoyable with snacks. Historical events? Well, this is the day the Void Swarm finally gets what it's been looking for. That makes it pretty historic, doesn't it? On the main display screen, Veltar could see the human fleet taking formation. The ships were sleek and elegant, nothing like the massive battle cruisers most species used for warfare. They looked more like pleasure craft than military vessels. Each one was painted in bright, cheerful colors, with names like Customer Satisfaction. Guaranteed, and your call is important to us. Admiral, Veltar said desperately, perhaps we should retreat, gather more forces, plan a better strategy. This seems like suicide, Admiral Kim finished. I can understand why you'd think that, but trust me, we've been planning this particular conversation for a very long time. It was until one of their junior technicians accidentally deleted the gravitational constant from their experimental database, Dr. Yoon continued. Not just from their computers, mind you, from reality itself, in a sphere about 50 light-years in diameter. The model changed, showing star systems where planets suddenly stopped orbiting their suns, where suns themselves began drifting apart, where the basic forces that held matter together simply stopped working. 14 billion people lived in that region, Dr. Yoon said quietly. They had about 6 hours before everything fell apart completely. What did you do? Admiral Kim chuckled, but it wasn't a happy sound. And we spent 3 days straight running around with backup copies of the gravitational constant, manually reinstalling it on every single particle in 50 light-years of space. Do you have any idea how many particles that is? A lot? Veltar guessed. More than a lot. Our technical teams didn't sleep for a week, but we got it fixed, and nobody even knew there had been a problem. The Nexari think their experiment just had some minor technical difficulties. Dr. Yoon brought up another file. Or this one, the Sentient Color Uprising of 3156. Sentient. Colors? The artistic collective of Zeberon was working on an installation that would give emotions and consciousness to different wavelengths of light. They wanted to create living art that people could actually communicate with. A new model appeared, showing a beautiful world covered in museums and art galleries. "It sounds wonderful," Veltar said. It was, until the colors decided they didn't, like being trapped in paintings and sculptures, Admiral Kim said. Imagine the color red suddenly becoming angry about being used to represent violence and blood. Imagine blue deciding it was tired of always being sad or calm and wanting to express rage for a change. The entire planet turned into a chaos of arguing colors, Dr. Yoon added. The sky couldn't decide what color it wanted to be. Plants were growing in colors that don't exist. People were walking around with their skin changing colors based on the emotional state of whatever wavelength of light was hitting them at the moment. How do you negotiate with a color? Very carefully, Admiral Kim replied. We had to set up individual therapy sessions with each part of the visible spectrum. Took 6 months to convince red that it could represent love and passion just as much as anger. Blue was actually easier to work with once we explained that it could be the color of a powerful ocean storm instead of just sadness. File after file appeared around them. The Time Loop Tuesday incident, where a civilization accidentally trapped 17 parallel dimensions in the same day, repeating forever. The Great Silence of 4221, where an entire sector of space lost the ability to make any sound at all. The Backwards Planet Crisis, where a world started spinning in reverse through time. This is overwhelming, Veltar said, sitting down heavily in one of the chairs. How do you keep track of all this? How do you even know when these things happen? We have people everywhere, Dr. Yoon explained. Not spies exactly. More like technical support representatives. They blend in with local populations, work normal jobs, live normal lives, but they watch for signs of problems that might get out of hand. And when something goes wrong, we fix it, Admiral Kim said simply. Quietly, efficiently, and usually without anyone knowing we were ever there. Veltar looked around the room again, noticing details he had missed before. Some of the artwork on the walls wasn't just decorative. It was created by the civilizations humans had helped. Thank you gifts, he realized. Expressions of gratitude from people who didn't even know who had saved them. But why? He asked. This must be incredibly expensive, incredibly dangerous. You could be building your own civilization, expanding your own territory, pursuing your own interests. Why spend all this time and energy fixing everyone else's problems? Admiral Kim's expression became serious, and for a moment he looked much older than his years, because we remember what it was like to be helpless. When humans first discovered faster-than-light travel and joined the galactic community, we were disasters waiting to happen. We nearly caused 17 different catastrophes in our first decade. What kind of catastrophes? We accidentally started a war between two peaceful species because we mistranslated their greeting as an insult. We almost destroyed a planet's ecosystem because we didn't understand their seasons. We created a black hole in the middle of a trade route because we were experimenting with technology we didn't understand. Dr. Yoon pulled up another section of the database. Every mistake we made is documented here, every near disaster, every moment when we almost destroyed ourselves or someone else through sheer ignorance. But you survived, because someone helped. Us, Admiral Kim said quietly. A species called the predecessors. They were ancient, wise, and incredibly patient. They watched us stumble around the galaxy, causing problems, and instead of stopping us or destroying us, they quietly fixed our mistakes. Where are they now? Gone. They transcended to a higher plane of existence about 500 years ago. But before they left, they gave us this database and a simple message. When you're ready, help the next ones. Veltar felt emotion welling up in his chest. And the other species? The ones who refuse to help us with the Void Swarm? They don't. No, Dr. Yoon said gently. We handle most crises before they become visible to the general galactic community. It's easier that way. Less panic, less political complications, less chance that someone will try to take credit or assign blame. So you work in secret. We work effectively, Admiral Kim corrected. Secret is just a side effect. Suddenly, every human in the room received a notification on their personal devices. The soft chimes created an odd harmony as they all went off at once. Admiral Kim looked at his device and his face went completely pale. "What is it?" Veltar asked, alarmed by the change in Kim's expression. Admiral Kim's voice was steady, but Veltar could hear the tension underneath. "Customer service evaluation complete," he read aloud. "Escalating to management." The comfortable warmth of the archive chamber suddenly felt cold. Dr. Yoon was checking her own device, her face growing serious as she read. "Admiral," she said, quietly, "we're getting the same message from every monitoring station in human space. Something big is coming." Admiral Kim stood up slowly, his casual demeanor replaced by the focused intensity of a career military officer. "It seems," he said to Veltar, "that solving the Void Swarm problem attracted some unwanted attention." "What kind of attention?" "The kind that makes the Void Swarm look like a minor customer service issue. The bridge of the human flagship, bureaucratic. Nightmare had always been a place of controlled chaos, but now it looked like someone had kicked over an anthill. Officers were running between stations, holographic displays were flashing urgent red warnings, and the communication systems were crackling with reports from across human space." Veltar stood near the main view screen, trying to stay out of the way as the humans worked. He had thought the Void Swarm crisis was over, that he could finally return to his people with good news, but the expressions on the faces around him suggested that their problems had only just begun. "Admiral," called Communications Officer Choi, Minjung from her station, her voice tight with barely controlled panic. "I'm getting simultaneous reports from every human outpost in the galaxy. They're all receiving the same transmission." Admiral Kim moved to the center of the bridge, his casual demeanor from the coffee shop completely gone. Now he looked like what Veltar had expected from the beginning, a seasoned military commander who had seen things that would break most people's minds. "What's the message?" Admiral Kim asked. "It's not words, sir. It's something else. Some kind of signal that our computers can't decode, but our people are understanding it anyway. They're saying it feels like someone speaking directly into their thoughts." Dr. Yoon Soo-jin, who had followed them to the bridge, was checking her own instruments. "Admiral, the readings I'm getting don't make sense. There's something massive approaching our reality, but it's not coming from normal space. It's coming from somewhere else entirely." "How massive?" Admiral Kim asked. "Bigger than star systems, sir. Maybe bigger than entire galactic sectors." Veltar felt his four hearts racing. "Is it another swarm, another mechanical plague?" "No," Dr. Yoon said, her voice filled with a kind of awe that made Veltar's skin crawl. "This is something completely different. Something I've never seen readings for before." The main view screen suddenly flickered, and Veltar immediately understood why the communication officer had said their computers couldn't decode the transmission. What appeared on the screen wasn't exactly an image. It was more like looking at something that existed in more dimensions than his eyes could process. The shape seemed to be made of crystal, but it twisted and folded in ways that made Veltar's brain hurt just to look at. When it spoke, the sound didn't come through the ship's communication system. Instead, the words appeared directly in Veltar's mind, bypassing his ears entirely. The voice was cold, mechanical, and absolutely certain of its own authority. "Universal Customer Service Corporation," it announced. "Reality designation 7 Alpha Prime has been evaluated. Service standards have not been met. Initiating complete refresh protocol." "A refresh?" Veltar whispered, though he wasn't sure why he was whispering. "What does that mean?" Dr. Yoon's face had gone pale. "It means they're going to delete our universe and replace it with a new one. Like reformatting a computer hard drive and installing a fresh operating system." "Delete our universe?" Veltar's translator seemed to struggle with the concept. That's impossible." "Unfortunately," Admiral Kim said grimly, "it's not. The Universal Customer Service Corporation is a multidimensional entity that treats entire realities like customer service cases. If they decide a universe isn't meeting their standards, they simply erase it and install what they consider a better version. The crystalline entity on the view screen continued its announcement. All inhabitants of reality, 7 Alpha Prime will be processed for optimal customer satisfaction. Estimated completion time, 47 standard minutes. 47 minutes. Veltar looked around the bridge at the humans, expecting to see panic, despair, or at least the kind of frantic activity that usually accompanied the end of everything. Instead, he saw something he didn't expect. Admiral Kim was smiling. "Officer Lim Tae-hyun," Admiral Kim called out to his communications officer. "Yes, sir. Open a channel to that entity. I want to file a formal complaint." The bridge fell completely. Silent. Every human officer turned to stare at their admiral. Veltar was certain he had misheard. "Sir?" Officer Lim asked. "Did you say a complaint?" "That's correct. I want to speak to their customer service department." Officer Lim's fingers moved across his controls with the practiced efficiency of someone who had done stranger things than open communication channels with universe-destroying entities. "Channel open, sir." Admiral Kim straightened his uniform, cleared his throat, and spoke in the same calm, professional tone Veltar had heard him use during their coffee shop meeting. "Hello. This is Admiral Kim Jae-ho with the Human Diplomatic Corps. I'm calling to express my complete dissatisfaction with your customer service representative's conduct today. The entity claiming to represent your organization has threatened to delete our universe without following proper escalation procedures, and I find this completely unacceptable." The crystalline entity flickered, its impossible geometry seeming to stutter for a moment. What are you doing?" it asked, its mental voice now sounding confused rather than authoritative. "I'm filing a formal complaint," Admiral Kim continued in the same professional tone. "According to Universal Customer Service Regulation 47B, which I assume your organization follows, I have the right to escalate any dispute with a customer service representative to their immediate supervisor. I demand to speak to your manager." That is not possible," the entity replied, but its voice now carried a note of uncertainty. "We are management." "I'm sorry, but that's completely unacceptable," Admiral Kim said, his tone becoming slightly sharper. "No legitimate customer service. Organization operates without supervisory oversight. As per Regulation 47B, subsection 12, I have the right to escalate this complaint to someone with greater authority than the initial representative. Please transfer me to your supervisor immediately. We do not have—" The entity began to stutter, its crystalline structure actually fragmenting as it tried to process what was happening. Veltar realized he was watching something unprecedented. A cosmic bureaucracy encountering a problem it had never been designed to handle. "This is highly irregular," the entity finally admitted, its voice now much smaller and more uncertain. Let me check with my supervisor." The view screen went dark. Veltar stared at Admiral Kim in amazement. "Will that actually work, Doctor?" Yoon answered before the Admiral could speak. "The Universal Customer Service Corporation is the ultimate bureaucracy. They've existed for millions of years, processing entire universes like customer service tickets. But bureaucracies have one fundamental weakness. They can't handle situations that fall outside their established procedures. And complaining about customer service is something they've literally never encountered before," Admiral Kim finished. "They'll be stuck in an infinite loop, trying to find someone authorized to handle a complaint about their own complaint department." Hours passed. The bridge crew continued their work, but the tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a knife. Veltar found himself pacing, his forelegs carrying him back and forth across the observation area as he tried to process what had happened. Finally, the view screen flickered back to life. This time, the entity that appeared was somehow even more bureaucratic than the first. It looked like the crystalline structure had been filed, organized, and stamped with dozens of official seals. "We sincerely apologize for the inconvenience," it said in a voice that sounded like it had been reading from a script for eons. Due to internal review procedures regarding complaint escalation protocols, Universal Refresh 7 Alpha Prime has been postponed indefinitely pending resolution of your customer service dispute. Please note that this delay may affect our overall service timeline. The entity paused, then added in an almost hopeful tone, "Would you be willing to rate your customer service experience today on a scale of 1 to 5? Admiral Kim grinned. "I'd be happy to provide feedback. I'll give your customer service a rating of 5 out of 5 for responsiveness, though I do think your initial representative could use some additional training in proper escalation procedures." Thank you for your feedback. Your input is very important to us and will be used to improve our service quality. Have a pleasant day in your continued existence. The view screen went dark again, and this time it stayed dark. Veltar turned to P. Admiral Kim, who was now leaning against the captain's chair looking extremely pleased with himself. "How did you know that would work?" Veltar asked. 2,000 years of experience with cosmic bureaucracy, Admiral Kim replied. "Plus, we've been preparing for this exact scenario since we first discovered the UCSC existed. You knew about them? We've been getting their customer satisfaction surveys for decades," Dr. Yoon explained. "Every time we solved a major galactic crisis, they'd send us a form asking us to rate the universe's performance. We never filled them out, though. We were waiting for the right moment." Veltar shook his head in amazement. "You saved the universe." "By filing a complaint. We saved the universe by understanding that even cosmic entities have to follow their own rules," Admiral Kim corrected. "And sometimes the best way to fight an impossible enemy is to make them defeat themselves." Later, as Veltar prepared to return to his people with the incredible news that not only were they safe from the Void Swarm, but the entire universe had been saved from deletion, he found a message waiting for him on his personal communication device. It was a customer satisfaction survey asking him to rate his experience with human assistance. He gave them 5 stars across the board, but in the comments section he wrote, "Excellent service and incredible results. However, the paperwork requirements were absolutely ridiculous." Within minutes he received a response. "Thank you for your valuable feedback. We are constantly working to streamline our processes and reduce unnecessary paperwork. Unfortunately, the request to simplify Form 2847B is currently pending approval from 17 different departments, 3 interdimensional review boards, and 1 cosmic entity that only meets on alternate Tuesdays." Veltar made a sound that his species made when they encountered something so absurd that the only possible response was laughter. It was the sound of someone who had realized that the universe was far stranger, more complicated, and more wonderful than anyone could possibly imagine. And somewhere in the vast complexity of it all, there were humans quietly making sure that everything kept working, one customer service call at a time.